Hello everyone, welcome back to the array blog. And in today videos, we are going to build something super interesting. That is basically a mini SQL database engine using C. And we are going to create a tiny version of SQL processor, and that can handle the command like insert and select. And this will help you understand how database engine work internally, and we are going to do tokenizing and parsing, storing data, and executing the command. So let's jump into that, and we are going to we are going to divide this part into two video. The first one will be we are going to build the basic thing where we can insert and we can select that, and in the second part we are going to build that we can insert that and we can select that, and we can also get that what we have inserted in the database, and we are going to insert that file in the database.txt file. So the basically our goal is to understand how SQL engine parse commands and execute them, and and basically we are going to store the three fields, that is we can say ID, that will be an integer, and a name, that will be a string, and age, that is again going to be a integer. So let's start writing that code, and I'll explain all the code line by line. So let me create a file first, so that will say mini sql dot c, right? So the first thing what we are going to do, we are going to import all the necessary libraries. So we'll say include, and we are going to include the studio.h, that is a standard input output library. The second one will be include, this will be string.h, right? This is for the handling the string, and the third one we are going to add, this will be a stdlib, that is for the memory utilities, right? So we'll say stdlib.h. So we have include, basically we have added all the three libraries that we have needed to go further, and to do all the kind of preprocessor, right? Now we are going to write the structure, and basically this structure define a single row like a database table row, right? So let's define the structure. So we'll say defining structure. So we'll say struct, say we can say this row, right? And keep it in a capital one. Okay. And then we are going to define the data. So it's int id, and in that this will be a character. We can say name, and say 50, right? So 50 will be sufficient. And then we'll say int age, right? So this is the structure that we have created. And now what we're going to do, we are going to create an array of 100 rows and a counter to track how many rows we have inserted, right? So we'll say struct row, it's a table, that will be a 100. This will be table. And the second one will say in that the row underscore count. We will start from the 0, right? So what we have done till now, we have included all the necessary libraries, and we have defined a structure that is basically going to that will basically define a single row like database table, and then we have created an array of 100 rows and a counter to track how many rows we have inserted, right? So the next part will be we are going to build a function that is basically insert function. So and this function basically takes ID, name, and age from the user, and what it does, it store the value in the next available row, whenever user insert a new row, new values, and then it will keep incrementing the row count, right? So let's create the function. So we'll say void execute, we can say insert, right? And here we are going to insert, and we are going to pass the three values, that will be int id, we'll say char, that will be a character, and the name. The third part will be int, and the next thing we are going to say table, and we'll say row count dot id equals, this will be id equals to, and next the line will be, we are going to copy that in basically we are going to append that. So we'll say str copy, and we'll say table, say row count dot name, and we'll close this. And the next line we are going to say, we'll say table row count dot age, that will be equals to age, right? And then we are going to say row count plus, and we'll keep increasing that, and we'll print a simple message using the printf, and we'll say row inserted, we can say yes, and so that it will keep printing in the next line. So what we have done here, we have created a function that is execute insert. We are taking three parameter id, name, and is, and we are counting the id, name, and is, and we will keep increasing the row count, right? Next thing we are going to write the select function. So basically this select function will loop through all the stored row and all the stored value inside the array, and we are going to, it will basically run a loop, and it will print all the values that we are going to, that we have already stored in the using the insert, using the execute insert function. So let's create that. So we'll say void, let me just copy this. So I'll print this execute insert, and then this will be execute, and say select, and execute select. And what we're going to do, we are going to say printf, say all rows, and we'll say backslash n. And what we are going to do, we are going to run a for loop so that we can loop through each value, each row, basically int I equals to 0, and I is less than equals to row count, and then we'll say I. And what we're going to do, we are going to print here. So we'll say printf, that will be a percentile d, percentile s, and then again it will be a percentile, and we'll say here backslash n. Then we are going to write table in a new line so that it will be easier to understand. Table of I dot id. This will be table dot id, and we'll close this. I'm going to just copy. This will not be a semicolon. This will be on the, say expected. So we have to close this, and so this will be table.id, and this will be your name. This id will be your age, right? So we have what we have done till now, we have written a function that is, we have included all the necessary libraries. We have defined a structure that is going to be a row, and that will store the value. And then we have written a execute function, that will insert function, that is basically going to insert whatever the input entered by user. And then we are going to insert, basically select that output, and we are going to display that. But then we are going to write a main function. So we'll say in main, and this main basically will give us store the user input and also give us the user output. So we'll say char command 100, right? And we are going to print some messages. So we'll say printf, and we'll say mini SQL engine started, say started, and we'll say types command, and we'll close this. So let's copy this, that I can print, we can print the multiple messages. This will be printf, this will be printf. So we're going to write the four things. The first will be, then second will be insert, and we are going to say id, and then we are going to say name. Last one will be page and backslash n. And then in the third part, select backslash n. This will be, we also delete this exit backslash n, right? So basically this will print a message, like what you have to, for inserting the value, what you have to write, and for the getting the value from the database, what you have to do. And if you want to close the program, then you have to type exit, right? We are just printing a message so that user get to know what we are doing. Now what we're going to do, we are going to run a loops forever, that until user type exists, and we'll use fgets function here, that basically read the whole input line. So we'll say while one, we are going to say printf db, and this will be inside the bracket, and this one type, and then we'll say fgets, and we can call command, and then we'll say size of command, and then we'll say stdin, and then we'll close this. And the next line will be, we are, what we're going to do, we are going to write basically what we're going to do, we are going to remove the trailing new line from the input. So this will be a command, and strcp, this one, and then we'll say command, and backslash n equals to 0. So this line basically, it will remove the trailing new line from input. Now if, now we are going to check the input. If user basically type exit, we are going to break out of loop and end up the end the program. So we'll say if strcmp, it will be a command, and then this will say exit, right? Exit equals to 0. So if user type exit, then we are going to break the command. So we'll say break. Basically, we are going to exit the loop, right? And if user type the select command, let me just copy this. Just here's the text. So if user type select, then we are going to execute the select command. So execute select, and then we'll say continue, right? And for the insert, we are going to create a two, basically we are going to create a two variable, that is int id and age, and the other one will be name, right? Say int id age, and their name will be. So now what we're going to do, we are going to use the SC scanf that basically extract three value from the input, and if it's successful, then we will call execute insert, otherwise we'll say unrecognized command, right? So what we're going to do, we'll say if scanf, and we'll say command, and that will be your insert percentile d percentile s, and then the last one will be the percentile d, right? And then what we're going to do, we're going to say m% of id, m% of, or no, this will be a name, and then m% of age, this will be equals to 3. So what it does, it will check all the three value are successfully provided or not. If not, then it will say let me add this first. If not, it will say a message that will be um, unrecognized command. So I'll say unrecognized command, right? And then we can say \n. Otherwise, we are going to execute the insert, and we'll pass the parameter that will be id, name and age. And we forgot to add the semicolon here. Yeah. So what we are doing here, let me just explain one by one everything. So first we have inserted the first we have inserted the all the necessary libraries, and then we have defined the structure, that is basically a single row, and we can say that this is input entered by the user, that is going to be a id, name and age, right? And then we created an array of 100 rows, and a counter, that is row count, to track how many rows we have inserted, right? And then we have created the execute insert function that basically that is going to take the id, name and age from the user, and it store the value in the next available row. And then what we have done, we have just increment the row count. The next thing what we have done here, that is the select command, and in the select command, what we have done, we are basically that we have fetched all the data from the array, and we run a loop, and we are just printing all the id, name and age to show the all the, basically it is for showing all the record to the user what we have entered. And the main function start basically where we are going to uh, take a command from the user, and we just printed a message here that this is the that mini SQL engine started these type commands. And then what type of command we have to print for insert, we have to use the insert, then id value, name value and age value. And for the getting the data from the array, basically this will select, and if you want to close the program, you have to type exit. And this is we are running an infinite loop to get a to basically to run the program continuously. And then we are getting the commands, and first command, if you get the exit, it will close the program. And if you get the select command, it will basically call execute select function that basically get the all the data from the array, and that will print, right? And then for the inserting the command, we have written a, if we get the this kind of values, then we are going to execute the command, and we are passing the id, name and age that is going to be inserted into the row, right? So let's compile it first and see what we get it here. So we'll say gcc, and we can say mini sql dot c hyphen o, we'll say mini sql. Okay, so I have written F, some capital is in execute select. Okay. So this will be print capital. Here this and then again saying exit typo here. The exit is lesson. It will be a space. This. But again the exit. So this is exit and this is F. So what's the problem? Select and then this will be for this also. You can also then this will see it. So let me clear this and then compile this. We're getting the select. Yeah, it's a bracket issue. Is this? So basically code issue. Because we have used a single code. That is why we are getting error. Yes, all the code, double code, and yeah. So let me clear this and again compile this. So we have successfully compiled this the program, and we got the our compiled file here, that is mini SQL.s. And now what we're going to do, we're going to run. So we'll say mini SQL. So it's a mini SQL engine started, and type command insert, that is basically ID, name, and age, right? So what we're going to do, we are going to first select to check if is there any values available or not. So we'll say select. So it's all rows and it blanks, right? So what we're going to do, we are going to insert, right? And then we are going to type the um, insert, and then what we're going to do, we are going to type insert, that ID will be 1, and we can say name will be a dog, and age we can say 30. So it's a row inserted. Now what we're going to do, we are going to run a select command again, so that we can see if if the row is inserted or not. So we'll say select, and it's a the row is inserted, all rows, one array block, and then 30. Let's insert the another thing. So we'll say insert. We can say ID is 2. We can say array of subs. So we'll say array. We can say block, and we can say subscribe, right? And the age we can say 30. And we'll again run the select command so that we can see, and we remove, right? And that's it. Like we just have built our working SQL database engine in a C. So uh, it is basically a command based, but if you want to build a UI based, then you can also design a UI and display all the command into the UI, right? So if you want that, please write down in a comment, so that I will make a separate video with the UI, so that that will be basically easier to understand the user, and any user can use that, right? They if someone doesn't know how the program work and how the basically code has been written. So, and if someone wants to just use the database engine, like someone wants to just select the command and insert the command, then we can build a nice GUI, a simple GUI, and we'll complete our project. So in you now understand how SQL processor parse command and store data, and that's the query. In the next video, we are going to learn about the where condition, and we are going to also learn about the command delete, update, and the file storage. And in the file storage, what we are going to do, we are going to create a file that is a database file, and we will store all the command that we are inserting here. basically that all the values we are inserting here we are going to store in a file, right? Yeah, and that's it. So let's recap that what I've done here. So I have included all the necessary libraries, then I have defined a structure, and then I have defined uh, row tables basically, and then count, and then the function that is basically insert the data in an array, and then select that basically read the data from the array, and then we just print, we basically define a character array that basically say a command, right? And what we have done, we are basically printing a message to the user, like for the for the insert you have to write like this, for the select you have to write like this, and for the, if you want to end the program, then you are going to write exit, right? And this is the basic loop. We are checking what command user has entered, either exit, select, or insert, right? And that's it. So let's exit the program, and yeah, so we have successfully closed the program. Now next thing what we're going to do, we're going to learn about the where, delete, and update, and the file storage. So I'll see you into the next one. Thank you.